Are you looking to improve as a leader or want to create just a better work culture and environment in general? Then this Leaders Eat Last book review is for you. I'm going to answer all those pressing questions as well as the key concepts from the book, how you can apply them, and actionable steps you can take to implement them right away.
You got no time to waste, but still you hesitate. Caught in a
I'm William
circle
Glass,
saying,
host of the
"I'll
Silicon Valley
never
podcast,
leave this
where I talk to
place."
VCs, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and top performers to understand what it truly takes to grow and scale a business. I'm also a founder myself of a fintech company called Ostrich that is on a mission to improve global financial well-being. If you want more awesome content and videos like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so that you know when new episodes drop. All right. What is Leaders Eat Last all about? First off, it's a book by Sinek, who I'm a big fan of. He's done a bunch of really awesome TED Talks and awesome content out there. He's a great person to follow in general, so I highly recommend it. But this book blends a combination of organizational psychology, regular psychology, behavioral economics, and just behavior in general, as well as neuroscience. It's a really, really interesting blend of all these topics that are distilled down into a business and work context. I really enjoyed the book. I think it's fantastic, and I will get into some of the key concepts that you can apply to become a better leader, as well as just improve your work culture and the workplace culture at your business overall. To kind of kick off the book, Simon takes us through the psychological needs that we have and the psychological need we have for safety. And to kind of emphasize this, he takes us back to the hunter-gatherer times when we were in small tribes. So, if you think about human beings as a species, if you look at us, we don't have really sharp teeth, we don't have really sharp claws, we can't fly, we can't really swim for very long. We're really kind of unimpressive if you really think about it compared to some of the other species that are out there. So why is it that we were able to become the dominant species and kind of adapt the world to us in a way that no species had ever been able to do before? Well, part of it has to do with the prefrontal cortex. The other part has to do with the fact that we were able to come together from a community perspective and work together in a way that no other species really can. And so this is the first piece that Simon really highlights. So back when we had tribes about 150 people, which is an important number to remember, once we get over 150 people in about a group, it becomes really challenging to have the social connections and dynamic that you need. So there's something about 150 being a really solid number when you're thinking about building an office or capping an office size. Simon talks about a manufacturing company that limits all of their manufacturing plants to 150 people. They'll open one up right next door, right across the street with another 150 and kind of cap it at that because they find that from an efficiency standpoint, that's the most efficient kind of unit and number of people. But I digress. So the reason that it's so important is the social safety net is so important is because we used to have all these threats. And so we sort of organized society in a way where the strongest would go out and go hunt or go protect, and other folks had different roles, and we all kind of worked together to collaborate. And now in our modern society, we're no longer fighting off lions and tigers and bears on the regular. So it's now kind of translated into our work life for the most part, right? This is kind of the tribe and where we get our sustenance, our paycheck. We kind of hopefully get some fulfillment or satisfaction. And so it's really important in that environment to have a strong culture, right? Because when you don't have trust internally and there's not a safety net where people can bring up mistakes or problems or things that are happening, there tends to be this instance where people start to go against each other and butt heads internally. So Jack Welch, who is this famous CEO of GE forever and is kind of had all these management books written about him, Simon Sinek actually takes a very different approach. And one of the things that Jack Welch was known for is that he would cut 10% of the management force. The bottom 10% would get fired every year, and they would cut it no matter what. And it was kind of like meant to like have this internal drive. But if you really look at what it did to the culture is that now people stopped trusting one another. There was this need to compete internally in a way that long-term is detrimental. And as soon as Jack left, there were all these instances where GE stopped being kind of predominant, as well as the fact that if you looked at the general economy, GE was kind of following the same trend of things going up and to the right. And then as the economy changed and that industry changed, so did GE's kind of stock value and all that stuff. But the point being is that having this social safety net is super, super critical. You want to be fighting the external, and in this context from a work perspective is competitors, changes in industry, new regulations or things that you've got to abide by. And if you're too focused on your internal stuff and you're too worried about covering, CYOA, making sure that you're not in trouble, then you don't get in trouble personally, then you're not able to effectively compete and be as efficient as possible. So having that safety net is super, super critical, and it goes all the way back to the early days from a psychological standpoint. Some other key pieces that Simon talks about are the sort of happiness chemicals that we have in our brain. And so there's 4 chemicals specifically: endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. And these are kind of like our happiness chemicals that when they get triggered, we get this kind of feeling, we get some sort of benefit and good feeling out of it. And so the first 2, endorphins and dopamine, Simon Sinek labels as the selfish chemicals. These are the selfish ones, dopamine and endorphins. And they help us achieve, they help us drive from an individual perspective. And that's what their value is. And so in the book, he's talking about how all 4 are important, but they're important in certain balance. And so when we think about endorphins specifically, endorphins cover up pain. They're like a pain masking chemical, right? So think about like that runner's high that you always hear about after a runner. You run and you get that kind of this like really good feeling. What it's doing, what our body's doing is sending endorphins that mask kind of the pain our muscles are feeling from having just run and done all these workouts. And one thing to note is that endorphins can be addicting. That's why you see some people that are addicted to working out are always one-upping their exercise routine. So that's one interesting thing to note. When it comes to dopamine, dopamine is the goal-achieving chemical. I allude to that because there's a lot of drugs that stimulate this. So cocaine, alcohol, and even phone notifications and social media notifications. These stimulate that goal-achieving dopamine drug. And this one is very, very addictive. And it's the one that can really, really mess us up because it feels so good. Relative to the other 3, this one's really strong. And it's also why when you do a to-do list, marking off your to-do list feels so good, right? You're also doing dopamine because you're accomplishing goals, you're checking things off your list. So those are the selfish ones, and they're important, right? These are not things that we want to get rid of, but they have to be in the right context. And the last 2 are the selfless chemicals, which Sinek calls selfless chemicals, which is serotonin and oxytocin. And these help us build community and build meaningful connections and relationships with other people. So serotonin is the leadership chemical. This is the one that you feel that gets released when people admire you. You get recognition, you get respect, you get special treatment at a restaurant or something like that. That is serotonin that's being released. And from a leadership perspective, this can drive leaders to do really great things, right? So it feels good when you get respect and you're admired. And when someone lives up to expectations and to give admiration, we also get serotonin. So this is beneficial not only for the individual, but for the other people as well. And the one downside with serotonin, though, is that if a leader doesn't live up to a promise or breaks trust, it can negatively hurt. It'll hurt serotonin in both that individual as well as the people. And this is where trust starting to erode can be so detrimental. And when we talked about that social safety net and that social circle of safety within an organization or within a company, this leadership chemical is so important that leaders don't just try to go get admiration only, but they actually live up to their words and trust in other people and build that trust. And the last chemical is oxytocin. Oxytocin is the chemical of love. And what that means is it's the one that allows us to build emotional bonds. When we go give someone a handshake or give someone a hug, that's what's being released is this oxytocin that develops a relationship with someone. And so this is why it's really important that leaders don't just spend all of their time up in an ivory tower and not come down. It's really being involved. It's showing interest. It's showing time. It's showing care in people. It's when you sit down with your kids and instead of texting while you're listening to them, hey, how's your day? It's actually listening to them. It's spending time with people and not being distracted. That physical touch, it's building relationships. And this one is super, super powerful. And so as a leader, it's really, really important that you foster this with your people. That means spending time with them, going out of your way to hear what they have to say, showing that you are, they can approach you and that you're on that level with them, that it's not just I'm way up here and all that stuff. So that's really, really important. And part of this piece that's so important with what Sinek says is that it's very easy from a management perspective in the way we teach management to just manage by the numbers, right? We have such big, large organizations as you grow and grow and grow that you can just manage the numbers. But by managing the numbers, you lose that ability to connect with people. And when you lose those first two, all you have are the individual ones. And that fosters the wrong type of culture and relationship that you want. That's just goal-driven achievement, right? After you hit a goal, what happens? You immediately move on to the next one, right? It's only fulfilling for a short amount of time. Whereas serotonin and oxytocin, the selfless chemicals, stay for a lot longer and foster much stronger meaning. And so along with that, having a very strong corporate mission that is easy to understand and isn't esoteric, like be the best company ever, right? What does that mean? I don't know. I can't visualize what the best company ever is, but like say a Southwest that says they want to be the best low budget, low cost airline there is. It's specific, right? You can imagine what a low cost airline is and low budget is. It means it's affordable. And what does that mean in the context? It means that you're not going to have amenities, but you might have the best service. You might have the funniest time on there, right? Southwest is known for having flight attendants that read kind of the safety announcements and kind of tell jokes as they do it, right? So that is what is also really important, is having that mission that ties everything together. Overall, I highly recommend Leaders Eat Last. It's a fantastic book, and I hope that you enjoyed this review. There's one other note. Simon Sinek added a chapter in the newest version that talks about millennials and managing millennials. As a millennial, it really resonated with me and things that I felt in corporate America. So definitely worth a read. And if you enjoyed this, go ahead and leave a comment down below with one of your key takeaways. Hit the thumbs up button, and of course, subscribe so you get notified when new episodes air. I'm William Glass, CEO and co-founder of Ostrich, and of course, your host of the Silicon Alley Podcast. See you next time.
You got no time to waste, but still you hesitate.